Okay, welcome. We've got a little different one today. This is Preterism and the Book of Job. And just so you know, the inspiration for this video was I saw a Tim Mackey sermon video this morning that popped up on my YouTube feed, and it was just something I had to just share here. So it's a sermon on the Book of Job. I'm going to put a link to the video either in the description or at the as an end screen here. So regardless of your end times view, I highly recommend that video about the Book of Job. It's just a way to look at it that I personally hadn't looked at it before, but it's just a very eye-opening. So the purpose of today's video, we're going to see how the book of Job is a foreshadowing of the coming of the Son of Man, which occurred in 70 AD. And yes, I have a preterist perspective. So when I saw that video, that's the first thing that came to mind. So just wanted to share that with you. In the sermon video itself, the big picture of it, just to oversimplify it, is basically that Job is a type of Christ. There's so many ways to look at the book of Job, but again, this kind of hit me. So if we have a type of Christ, how can we look at parallels here? So if Job is a type of Christ, and I just want to work backwards in the book of Job here, at the very end, Job 42, the last two verses, it says, after this, Job lived 140 years and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. So Job died and was old and full of days. So the question is, after what? It says, after this, Job lived 140 years. Well, earlier on in that chapter, it says that the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. So we have a restoration. That's what happened here. So this should sound familiar to any Bible reader. In Peter's sermon in the book of Acts, he talks about how heaven must receive Jesus until the times of restoration of all things which God has spoken by the mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began. Now, clearly, Peter has Jesus's return in mind when he talks about this time of restoration, because obviously he's speaking after Jesus's crucifixion and resurrection. So times of restoration, a little side note here that this is kind of Jubilee language. The only reason I put that in there is because a lot of people think that the coming of Christ is like the end of the world. Well, it's not the end of the world. It's just a time of restoration. It's like God hitting the reset button. And again, the position here from this channel is that occurred in 70 AD. So the question is, how old was Job when he was restored? The Bible, it doesn't specifically say. It just says that he was 140 years later. He lived an additional 140 years after this time of restoration. But it also told us that he received double. So all of the things that he received double of, including his sheep, oxen, and everything that he had, it was received double. So you can take that 140 years and cut it in half, and that was his starting point. So he was 70 years old, and then he received double. He received an extra 140 years, meaning he died at 210 years old. So just as Job was 70 years old, the question comes up, how old was the Son of Man when he restored all things? He was also 70 years old. If that sounds confusing to you, I recommend you watch a video we did on this channel before. It's called the Son of Man, which was another time statement regarding Jesus's coming in 70 AD. If Jesus came as the Son of Man, he had to do that within the lifespan of a man, which was 70 years, the Bible tells us in Psalm 90. So again, Son of Man, restoration, just as Job, he's a type of Christ. He's a picture there. That 70 years fits the bill. If that wasn't convincing enough for you, just to fit the typology, regardless of your end time position, there are end times parallels with the book of Revelation. Just quickly scanning at Job. In Job 42, the wrath of God was aroused against Job's friends, just like the bowls of God's wrath were aroused in the book of Revelation. And then after that, you see that there's a feast in Job's house in chapter 42, which you can parallel that to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And then working backwards more, in Job 41, it's interesting. You have the story of Leviathan in the description. We know that Leviathan is the beast from the sea. Go back another chapter, Job 40, we have the behemoth, which is the beast from the land. So again, what do you have there? I see you're making the connections here. You got the two beasts of Revelation. And you could also go back, even way back to the beginning of the book of Job, just to see how it's a picture of Christ. Is just as at the beginning of Jesus's ministry, what happened to him? He was sent in the wilderness, tempted by Satan. And what happens at the beginning of the book of Job? He was tempted by the adversary as well, or he was accused by the adversary in the presence of God. So many parallels there. But again, being the preterist here, I want to focus on that end times parallel and the coming of the Son of Man, how that was fulfilled at Jesus's 70th year on the earth as he returned in his 70th year. So today's takeaway, again, Job's time of restoration occurred when he was 70 years old, and the Son of Man, Jesus, restored all things when he was 70 years old. Again, this is just scratching the surface. I just thought about this today. I'm sure the deeper we look at Job, there's going to be so many more parallels where we can connect the dots. But for that reason, if you have anything you want to add to this study as well, you have any questions or comments, let me know. And until next time, contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints, and God bless.